Why am I not showing up? There I am. What have you sent me? Are we still the only ones here? Oh, that's kind of cool. There. Oh, well, I don't know. It is. I thought it was. Well, my calendar says it's Saturday for sure, and the 16th. And I know my. Hang on a minute. Let me check something. I know Mike put something out a couple of days ago.
Oh, well, I don't know what to expect and never expected to do this in my lifetime. So I would say it exceeded it. It was incredible.
Fluffy puppies.
Hey, Dad, don't drop it. I have to practice to wave in the figure eight. I mean, there's a lot to it. When you look at this weekend, there's a lot going into it.
Squirrel?
As well. It's the 30th anniversary of the partnership of this event, but also the fans have been going crazy over the gold.
All right. What have we done here?
How proud are you for you and the team to see those gold cars on the track? Oh, we're so proud. The livery is just beautiful. It's this golden livery to celebrate our golden 50 years and the legacy and iconic brand that we built with all of our partnerships and all of our fans.
Well, Brenda, can you still see me?
Race. We love Sebring. 30-year relationship. I can't think of a.
I'm going to back out of my YouTube and come back in.
On 40 cars throughout the 2024 motorsport season in races like F1, MotoGP, Pikes Peak. So through the rest of this year, look for
now I'm back in. And we're still alone.
Just go back to what you said. Whatever you do, don't drop.
Okay, well, we'll just hang around, see if anybody shows up, I guess. I don't see any messages from anybody that say no, that they can't be here today. There's Maple Bacon. I was just looking to see if maybe I had RSVPs with no attendance today. And there you are. Hello, Mikey. Thought maybe you were out getting donuts this morning. So far, it's just me, you, and Brenda. We were just about to think this wasn't the right day. Now, Brenda, can you hear the TV, and is it too loud? Now he's getting shuffled back, so I'm not sure if he's got an issue or damaged the underneath of the race car with that slight off. But now we have the two-way with Andretti cars running. I don't hear it. The two United Autosport team cars running together. Well, you can hear it. Well, naturally, you can hear it. How about now?
Well, it's on. You can't see it. I didn't think you could hear it. I just wanted to barely. It's on because the 12 hours of Sebring started a few minutes ago. All right. Surely you can't hear it now. How about now, Mike? Do you still hear it? I just turned it way down. I mean, I barely hear it, but then again, I'm deaf, so that may not count. No, I don't have to record it. It's on Peacock. I could watch it anytime. I just didn't want to miss. I thought I'd see if it had started yet. He thought I could disguise it enough that it wouldn't be, cause me any problems. You shouldn't be. Can you see it? Did you see that picture of that little untable that I showed you? Good morning, Miss Diana. You sleepy this morning? How's the packing come along? Well, I hauled a load out yesterday, and that's why I'm a hurting bear today. I tried to take a load out by myself and unload it in the container, and right now the container has a hutch, bookcase, a couch, leather, and an oak kitchen table with its stand. And said I just took out a load of books yesterday afternoon, but I have lots more to pack. And some of it I just can't figure out quite how I'm going to do it. I I keep old magazines, and before anybody says you shouldn't be doing that, let me just say that I'm going to keep doing it, so it don't matter. One of my favorite writers used to have a habit of reaching up and pulling an old magazine he'd kept off his shelves so that he could refer back to previous articles and things of that nature. So but I was doing it already, but that gave me my way of looking at that was justification for continuing to my hands. I can't figure out which hand I'm using where. What I need to do is just leave it alone. I'd like to finish my bookcase today if I have enough boxes. And then I can start on the fiddly bits. And there are a few fiddly bits. Feel a little bit better this week. I pulled the nerve and oh. So you've been doing physio massage therapy for the last 2 weeks. So this weekend I feel better. Well, good. I did not know that. Well, I hadn't heard from Mark. I was hoping he might make it, but so far, not good. I hope he's feeling all right. He sent him a note just to see. They were getting snowed in again, or they had gotten more snowed in the last couple of days. I told him to quit bragging about that. He was going to cause problems. Sleepy Bear, yes, I'm dragging Diana to the cabin show. Oh, you are? Now, what is the cabin show? Tell us about the cabin show, Mike. I mean, is that literally what it says? I'd love we always wanted to build ourselves a long house. I guess that dream's done. What do you think, Ted? I mean, since we hadn't got to do it now, we got this house. Hopefully, got this house. Hey, buddy. You want to say hi to anybody? Hmm? Good boy. Good boy. You want to look at the camera and show everybody your dirty nose? Cabin and cottage. It has builders where there's suppliers and different products. Mike said, "Good morning, Teddy." Teddy said, "Good morning, Mike. If you don't mind, he's going to lay back down. Don't pull on me. Let go of my shirt. Come on, I'm in the middle of a show. Let go." Looking to get some ideas for the future to build a home-based cottage to live in when we retire in Canada for 6 months out of the year and spend the other 6 months in warm climate in the U.S. Oh, that'd be good. Not sure why he wants to go to that. We're not building a cabin. Ooh. Do I detect a note of or a tone of conflict here? Yeah. Come on, Diana, get on board. Ah, I see. Ah, damn it, or dang it. Don't sit there and stare at me like that. You're making me yawn. I met a lady at Walmart who was a cashier, and her husband spent part time in the U.S. and they have a cabin in Canada, so she would work while you were here. So she would work while they were here. I didn't know you'd been in a Walmart that much to talk to anybody. It does not involve a horse trailer. Well, why not? A cabin can have a corral out back. A cottage can have a small riding stable. And if it has those things, then it probably needs to have a small horse or large or horse trailer. Nope. Did everybody get snowed in and they can't get online? Well, that's a good question. I don't know what's going on in the Northeast. And so that would cover Tina, maybe. Not sure about Carol. I hadn't heard anything out of her, I don't think. Let me go look again. Oh, there's Miss Sarah I just saw on the YouTube. No, hadn't heard anything. Well, there's that. Thank you, Diana. I just looked and saw you posting my link. I don't know. Maybe Carol got all partied out last night. Okay, what was I looking at? Oh, there she is. Day in the life as a teenage pilot on spring break. Well, let's see. She is going to play lacrosse. She's going to jog. And fly. Oh, no, she's driving. And now she's going flying. Boy, life is rough as a teenage pilot, I'm telling you. Happy spring break. Wow. Okay, sorry guys. I got to reading something there and lost my place. Where am I? How's the giving away of the old furniture on Facebook going? Have you looked at? Well, I'm just getting to it, Mike. We got to uncover it enough to take pictures of it. I don't know if Brenda's thought of that or not. Did everybody get snowed in? Nope. So we haven't given it away yet, but we're going to try to do that this week. I'll try to get on that today and tomorrow. We need some pictures though. I think we probably can give it away. I don't know. It's not that bad a shape. The only problem with it is the recliner part may not. I mean, I've got some old controllers, but most of them are messed up. I don't know if they can be fixed. Good morning, Kay Atwood. Welcome in. There's not a big crowd here today, so you joined you bumped the party right up by a quarter. We're 25% bigger now than we were a minute ago. What got me distracted was when I went over to see if anybody sent me anything on Instagram about not being here today. I ran into a new stream by Miss Sarah next door, and in which she was showing off her teenage life as a a teenage pilot, and I guess high, senior and almost college student. Which, mentioning that, her mom and dad have invited us out to dinner tonight, which we thought was just really nice of them to do. So far, I think all Brenda wants is cake. You say, when or where are they taking you? Well, they said anywhere we wanted to go. So Brenda picked a place called Chewy's, which is sort of a Tex-Mex kind of a place. Did I disturb you? Okay, he wants me to move my arm. So that's where we're going. Mikey, that's funny. I don't think they're open in the evenings. I think they just do, morning shifts and make donuts, and then I think they go home. I think. I know I went by there one day and they were closed up, and it was just, not that late in the day. Brenda wasn't quite as keen on them as I was. I thought maple bacon with a caramel drizzle was really good. Get all the guys at work thinking about duck donuts. We want to open up one. There you go, Mike. I think it's an excellent idea. Hadn't yawned all morning. And as soon as I start this, I start that. And half the morning shift of the police force. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they'll buy. Oh, I'm sure they would. District 4 Fire Department. There you go. Sounds to me like the clientele is there, Mike. You just got to put the store in. Mike sounds like you've got a robot ready to support you, so waiting on that, waiting on support you. So what you are you waiting on? Buy that franchise. I think that's what she meant. Punctuation's important. I hadn't heard anything out of Marcus for a couple of days, so I don't know if he's snowed in and communicationless, or if he's not well, or if he's just not here yet. But I said, well, notes. We talked a couple of times early in the week, and I told him I'd talk to him before the week was out, but then we haven't talked. There you go, Mike. That's all it takes right there. Customers with the donuts will sell themselves. Yeah. Gee, man, Christmas top that. Sorry, guys. Give me just a second. I got something in my eye. I don't know. It may just be dried out. I like that idea of a breakfast donut sandwich too. I think it sounds pretty yum. I saw recently that, well, I don't know how long they've had it. It's not been here too long in this area, but McDonald's has been selling a bagel breakfast item with sausage, egg, and cheese on it. My problem with that is I can't, the bite down on a bagel's hard. I think it's all going to squish out the other side. Bagels are tougher than donuts or just a biscuit. Well, if that's the case, hey, Dave, Space Mountain Dave Cantrell has joined us, folks. Good morning. How's sunny? How is Florida? Sunny, rainy, hot, cold? One of us has the yawns, and he can't seem to stay awake. Mike, you said something else that I meant to put up there. That's why napkins are free, Tim, at my donut shop. That's thinking ahead, Mikey. Or how, if you're like me, you know where all that goes, right on your shirt. So napkins are important. Cloudy and warm. Well, it's cloudy and cool here. I thought the sun was supposed to be out by now, but maybe it'll be out in a little bit. I sure would like to have a little vitamin D because it's yesterday was yucky and it rained a lot. Nothing serious, just nastiness. Kay has sunshine. So, Mike, Diana, what do you guys have? I didn't get the weather report for Canada. It's what? How cold or warm are you up there now? You're probably warmer than we are. It was bright and sunny this morning, but now it's cloudy and cold. This Wednesday, our son has been asked to 573rd Air Cadets at the Air Museum for the 100th year of the Royal Canadian Air Force anniversary. Well, that's cool, Mike. Is that nearby? You've been there before, right? Didn't you have some pictures posted? Well, hang on just a minute, guys. I'm going to have to go shut the door again. Tedder just flipped her open. You could, when you left, bud. Mm. Well, that's cool. Oops, better turn me back on there. So is the Air Force the base that's near you, or this museum? Is it like the only one? Is it the Canadian National Air Museum? Because we've got one. Smithsonian has an aerospace museum, but there's also one in Dayton. Ohio. Is another really big one. Be the two biggest. One of them is a military. Excuse me. One is on or near a military base, and the Smithsonian, of course, is in downtown Washington D.C. But there is a big chunk of that is, I think, over near an airport. I don't know which one that I would like to go to. I know they used to take and one down here at Smithsonian. A friend of mine's been up there a couple of times. Well, I hadn't seen him in ages, but he said that he went up there one time and they got to do like a back lot tour, a backstage tour, and they got to go through and see all the old airplanes that they were restoring for new to put on display. That would be really cool for a guy like me. It's the only one that we have. It's a really beautiful place. You would love it. I'd like to see it. Out of 100 cadets, 20 were chosen. Pretty big deal for him. Only 20 kids. That is really cool. He's making us all proud. Ours is close to our air base. It has one of the largest collections in Canada. I'll have to look that up. Does it have an official name? Just Air Museum in Winnipeg or Winnipeg Air Museum or damn eyes. Pardon my language. The Royal Canadian Air Museum. Well, that makes sense. Although they don't want me to copy it, apparently. No copy and paste. No let you. Oh, instead of Air Museum, it's the Aviation Museum. I got it. I'd figure that part out. That's not that hard. So, Mike, what's the latest word on the Airstream? Are you still looking for one, or looking at the one you talked about? Or I keep seeing them for sale down here, used old ones, but I see new ones for sale down here too, but they're pretty pricey. And I'm thinking that conversion from Canadian to American would probably hurt in that regard. I'm just going to have to start mainlining this coffee. That's all I know. I was thinking go out the end of the month, take a look at it. How far, where'd you say it was, Saskatchewan? Guy's not getting back to us. Think he thinks he's getting more money parting it out. Well, he may be. Truth is, he may be getting more money parting it out. That's the funny thing about parting some stuff out. If you're willing to sit on it long enough and just let it do its thing, you probably can get more money in the long run parting it out. But I just wonder on something like that, when you run out of easily sold parts. I mean, you got some interior stuff you could sell. You got hitches maybe, or wheels and tires and axles, but people might come in with a wrecked one and need like the sheet metal off the front, and that's not the easiest thing to remove. I was wondering about that, Diana. I mean, yeah, and I was wondering if he's just, I don't know. It's a lot of it parting out. Like I said, you can get more money, but it takes a lot to do that. It takes a lot of patience. When you're in a situation like that, you're just better off to break even and let go. True. I put the ball in his court. I told him they'd let know how he wants, what he wants for it, how much, as a package deal. That I wasn't no tire kicker. Tire kicker. You bargain. You a good bargain for Christmas trees too, Brian. Golly, damn, Mike. He works out of town a lot, so that's probably not helping any. All right, Brenda, if the line goes dead down here, you come kick me, because after feeling pretty good today or this morning, I'm suddenly sleepy or yawning won't stop. That makes me sleepy. Working out of town a lot, though, makes it hard for him to sell parts too, Mike. If you think about it, he's not there, to take the calls or move the parts, and people waiting on parts. A lot of times, they don't want to wait either. They want to get their parts right now so they can get back on the road. So he may not be. I'm cleaning Teddy's chair. Pardon me, just. Brenda, are you making that noise? Hang on a minute, guys. Sounds like a swarm of bees. Brenda, you hearing that? Speaking of, did you see any of you guys see the tennis match? I can't remember where it was at, but they had a bee swarm. It decided to build a new home on the, I guess, the flying cam above the course, and it stung one of the players, or one of them stung a player. They left when they're in a swarm mood like that. If you leave them alone, they won't bother you, but they would certainly be intimidating if you're not used to that. I thought that was you. No, it's not me. And I don't hear it now. I don't know. Maybe it's a weed eater. Yeah. One of the players swatted one, so it stung him, which they will, on the head, I think. And, they evacuated the court, and then they called in a pro, and he came in and got him all funny. It's funny to watch one of those guys, because a lot of those guys, if they're no hand at that, they don't even wear bee protection. They just, especially in a swarm, because most of the time when bees are in a swarm like that, they're while they look like they're excited and nervous, they're actually pretty calm. And they're not usually that aggressive. Now, if these were killer bees, not sure that's true, but they must not have been killer bees, because he was, like I said, the guy that came and got him didn't have any protection on. So, he just walked up there, and what you do in a case like that is you brush them aside and you look for the queen. And once you find the queen, you get her into another container, like a big box or something, and put her in it. And all the other bees will leave where they're at and go to her, because that's not what this is all about. It's about starting a new colony. They've left the old colony. The other colony is getting crowded. The existing queen lays some royal eggs, as they call them, which hatch out into royal princesses, I guess. And then they fly off to start their own colony, or one of them does anyway. The others may not. Teddy came up here so he could eat in peace. Oh, did he? I wouldn't have bothered him. He could have gone right over there and eaten. He probably wanted something different. Brenda's decided that she wants to have another fish tank. She wants to have a saltwater or a freshwater tank now too, once we get settled. And she used to have a really, really pretty freshwater tank with plants, really vibrant, and what's the word? Vibrant and healthy, and I don't know, very self-sustaining with plants. He does. They eat. They get a can of small. They've actually gotten down to where they just eat like a real small can of food a day. I don't know. Brenda can tell you how much it's in it. Not much. Couple of 3-4 ounces maybe. And they split that. He and Chloe split that, and then he munches on dry food the rest of the day. Honestly, I think he'd rather have the dry food. But I've always heard that they need. Well, there he is, right there. Well, there he is, right there. And he can't hear me. Up there he is, right there. Where are you? He's freezing on us. Up and now he's gone. Maybe they're having technical difficulties today. Well, it seems to be for him. he's certainly not losing weight when he eats it, that's for sure. But they won't eat too much dry food. But I've always heard they need some dry food in their diet to, keep moisture, especially I guess if they do eat dry food with it. Full of carbs. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I was thinking too. Okay, that's the downside of it. And I think some of it over time has not been the the best mix. Well, I hope he gets to come back, guys. I bet they're having bad weather out there. I bet he's unable to attend. He got a new phone, so I'm really surprised I'm not getting any messages from him. He finally broke down and bought one of the Wyoming phones, which may not make sense, but they've only got one major provider, I guess, in their whole part of the state, and it's a local company, or I don't know about local, but it's not very big. He had a Verizon account, I think, with his daughter that he had split with her when they were living in another place, and I forgot what. No, I haven't fallen asleep, baby. I just gone quiet. I hope they don't sell them then, because I sure would like to have them. I got real excited when you showed them to me. I was ready to go get them. No, I'm not asleep. I was kind of hoping I was watching to see if I was looking at something else and watching to see if he came back, but I was telling him about his telephone too. That's what got me started. But his Verizon, they don't, everything up there, if you're not Union, I think they call them Union Telephone Company or something like that. If you're not Union, then you're using their towers, and either they don't give them a lot of space or their tower system's not that abundant. So he finally broke down and got another phone, since Caitlin lives with him now, and I guess he and her both went and got a new local phone, but he kept his phone number. And there he is again. Let's see if this time it works.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now. I could.
Are you snowed in with technical difficulties?
No. I wasn't going to come on at all today. I got a whole house full of human beings coming.
Oh, well, you didn't have to.
Easter egg hunt.
That's next weekend.
And now not for us, it's not.
Okay.
Because they're not going to be around, so.
Did you get your maps drawn?
And I just found out I got more coming.
More coming?
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Extended family or real family or just somebody coming?
Well, just extended folks. So anyway, sorry I was late.
No, that's okay.
I'll probably go early too, because I got eggs to hide.
Uh-oh. Well, what do you do when the snow's up to your knees in Easter?
Well, I hide stuff in trees mostly.
Ah,
You know, all them big old cottonwoods and things I got in the yard, they're full of cracks, and I got all kind of places I can put eggs.
gotcha. Did you get your map drawn up?
And the wife went a little bit overboard on amount, so it's going to be a.
So
But
you
we
got
got
a
a lot
lot
of
of.
extra kids coming too, so it'll be fun.
Oh, so this is going to be an event.
Always is. Used to be easy.
When there was only 2 or 3 of
When
them.
there was only one, it was
Yeah,
a piece of
it was
cake.
real easy.
Yeah. So yeah, I got the map drawn.
Can you expose it to us on the camera, or is it still is it hidden away?
Well, it's not hidden. It's just sitting over here. Hold on.
I didn't know if anybody was allowed to study it early.
Well, you're not allowed to study it early if you're going to use it to your advantage.
Well, come on, hop up here.
If you're going to show up and start the hunt early, then no, you can't see it.
Hey, Blue Nose, welcome in, Chris. Oh, you had, I didn't mean, well, I'm sorry. You had it all ready to go there.
I do one of these every year. I don't even know if you can see it.
Oh, I can see it just fine.
There's
I like that, man. I
there's
never,
the,
go ahead.
there's the rabbit,
Look at the rabbit.
and it's Peter Rabbit's most splendiferous and phantasmagoric Easter egg map.
And those are real words, too.
Like Thrasmotic, and they're common terms down our way.
What movie was that again?
It was out of one of the Blackadders.
Blackadders, that's right. If anybody hasn't seen the Blackadders, then they need to. Because some of those are pretty funny. Especially that one, he's just quoting there.
Yeah,
Well,
he met Dr. Johnson and was giving him a hard time.
yeah, Dr. Johnson was doing the
He wrote the dictionary.
English dictionary at that time. And he came up with all these words. You know, he was throwing off on all these fancy words, $20 words and stuff. So the
That he was making up as he went along.
So the Blackadder started, and he said he had every word in the English language. So Blackadder started saying things like what he just said.
Contrafabularities.
he says, what?
Thrasmotic.
He said, oh, yeah, people down my way say that all the time. And this guy's sitting there writing them down, trying to get them so he can put them in his dictionary. And I believe that there's stuff that gets put in there just that way too, especially these days since they put slang and everything else in there. When I was a kid growing up, I would look up slang words trying to figure out what they meant and where they came from, and they weren't in there. And now there's a whole dictionary full of them. Chris, we're doing okay. I'm sore today. I hurt myself a little bit last couple of days, but that's okay. That's just how it goes. I'm gonna have to be that way till we get moved. And then when we get moved, I may not move for a damn month, pardon me. I'm trying to do something with Teddy's bed. Bless his heart, he likes to lay with his head propped up here right beside me. But when he does that, his head is like, I mean, it's like it's been at a 90-degree angle. I'm trying to lift him up a little bit so it's not so bad. So how are you doing, Chris? We were watching Hercule Poirot last night. Poirot, excuse me, on Amazon Prime, and they showed a guy who was supposed to be running a speedboat and setting a world record on the water, which was a big deal in that time period, actually in the 1920s and 30s, part of the 30s, and he fired it. Looked like he had a V12 in there, Chris. I mean, I don't know if they would have put one in it for that show or not, but it looked like one. So maybe it was a real boat that they were actually using to. I know I've seen pictures of a lot of those boats run back in the time period. And of course, a lot of them, just like high speed cars, a lot of them ended up killing their drivers. But such is the name of the game if you're seeking speed and fame. Oh, I just made that up and it rhymed and everything. And Blue Nose has sunshine. So there's the Midwest reporting. What about you? What do you got?
Well, we're supposed to be 44 degrees today. We got, I don't know how much we got. You can't hardly tell because of the wind, but we probably got 8 or 10 inches. When was that, Shauna?
Wednesday or something?
Huh? So Thursday we got about 8 or 10 inches of snow, and then I plowed, and then on Friday the wind decided to switch completely out of the east.
Oh,
which always creates problems for us.
Well, yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah, it drifts and it tends to make great big drifts, and so I had to start all over on Friday and plow again. Well, only mostly just the barn lot, but
well,
the toy's holding up grand, Mike. It's a beautiful beast.
Compared to what he had before, he's loving that. Now you don't have to depend on, what was it, the city or somebody?
No, we just hired a local guy that does most of the city plowing.
Town, whatever.
63 people.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a limit for calling something a city or not. There probably is. Did you have severe storms the other night? Yes, we didn't have it too bad, Chris, but yes, there were some in the area and in the state. I don't know if we actually had any tornadoes or not, but we did have storms.
Well, Danny Ken asked me if Mom and Dad's place got hit. And
they had some tornadoes up there.
I hadn't heard that they had tornadoes up that way, but
I think they were further north from them.
Yeah, I talked to them yesterday. They were fine. So Dad never mentioned it. He typically will mention if they get some cool tornado or derecho or whatever.
Especially if it's something better than.
Which, I mean, you should mention them.
Well, sure.
We had that little F1 or maybe an F2 that hit the house last year, and that was interesting because we don't typically get them in this end of the state at all.
Well, Mike, that sounds pretty nice. Mark, is yours a Kubota? No, yours is a Ranger, isn't it?
Yeah.
Diesel 4-wheel drive would be kind of, they'd have some grunt, I bet.
Oh, I bet they do. And if I stay on it, mine does a real good job. But if I would let it languish there on the ground for a while, it'd be harder to move it around.
Languish.
Because it'll melt just a little bit and then freeze them hard, and then they're hard to get out of the way.
To get up, yeah. Mike, we just don't see a lot of diesel. I guess we see more tractors, diesels, and maybe some Kubota. Well, we have Kubota tractors and things, actual tractors that are diesel, but you don't see much small stuff diesel down this way. I don't know if you guys have a lot of diesel cars up there or not. I mean, Europe's full of them, and they like them and use them quite. I mean, there's a lot of stuff over there. I watch TV from Europe and England, and I'm always hearing. I can tell they're running diesels because you can hear them crank them up and shut them down. They're not gas, but
Well, and here I don't know how it is in Canada now, but it's diesel's high as a kite for price wise.
Yeah, if diesel don't get you unless you're doing, I mean, if you need that kind of torque, or if you need maybe on the highway, but yeah, I'm like you. It's gotten really, really, really expensive.
Well, Dad had bought, he was running Cummins diesels for years now, since the 80s.
Morning, Don.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead. I just said hi to somebody.
And he tried for years to talk me into buying one because the fuel was so cheap.
Yeah, then.
And then all of a sudden, boy, that flip flopped, and
I bet you
it's like $4+ a gallon still.
Oh yeah, and I've seen it much higher than that. Diesel right now is pretty affordable. It's only $1.70 a liter. What's gasoline a liter, Mike? Our gas has been hovering right around $3. And not too long ago it was $2.98. But it's up.
We dropped down in the $2 again for a while, for a couple weeks, and then it's back up there again now.
Yeah, I can't remember what I paid the other day. It's $3 something, but
$1.33 a liter.
So petrol is still a little bit cheaper than diesel, but that's not bad. It's much the difference in it here and there. Then it's a fair bit different because down here diesel used to, like Mark says, diesel used to be dirt cheap when gasoline was $2 or $3 a gallon, and that was when it was high at that price. Diesel was a buck, $1.09 or something. It used to be just cheap as dirt.
And maybe they were running ag diesel anyway.
Yeah. And then suddenly it just went sky high, and it's worse. I mean, I've seen it. Seems like I've seen it around here $6 or so.
Probably.
Even when it didn't seem like it ought to be a high time, but that being said,
they get you every way they can get you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hello, Chloe. Our province chopped the gas tax off of it by 20 cents for the next 6 months. Off both, Mike? That's a pretty good savings. If they did that here, that'd be a pretty good chunk. 20 cents is 20 cents. But Tennessee and I know Ohio's in that game, and we used to have some of the highest taxes in the country. I'm sure California's are higher than ours now, but Don, if you're still in here, we're doing weather reports. What's the weather like down in Tejas, or Tejas, rather? Well, Mark didn't have a lot of time, so I'm going to pull my show up here, and we'll go through it kind of quick. If we can I don't know if we're capable, but we'll try. And we'll just start it right there, and I'll close this up, and I won't read a lot of notes. We'll just palaver, and just so. Hey, John, Surf Bum's with us. Good morning. Aaron go Brock. You know what? I put all my stuff away. My flags are packed, and I don't have anything to hang them up on. And I realized last night that
tomorrow's St. Patty's
Day, and I put my Irish flag away. So it'll be back out next year. I'll make sure it's out flying proudly for.
Well, my bride is making corned beef and cabbage today.
Yeah.
And a ham.
And a ham. That actually sounds pretty good to
And
me.
I might need to go shoot a moose. It sounds like more people keep coming.
Well, you might have to. John, we do. It's supposed to be on the 28th. My birthday. Happy birthday to Tim. However, things were kind of speeding along like they might happen before that, but I don't know. They probably won't. I mean, why would anybody want to maybe bump it up for our benefit if they could drag it out as long as they can? Say it'll be the end of the month. Plus, I don't even know. I mean, the people that were there may be in the same situation we're in, and that's trying to get moved. And I had to go out. We're getting rid of a bunch of the furniture we have now, and we're trying to get some newer stuff to replace what we've got. And so we found a couple of things on Facebook Market. Brenda did last week before last, and so we had to go pick that up. And in order to do that, I kind of had to wait till we got the container here, which I have now. I don't know if Mark, I don't know if you got that picture or not, but I sent you a picture. It said the gaping maw is open.
Yeah, you sent me a photo of it.
The container's here, and it looks like this.
It didn't look like it had a lot of stuff in it yet.
Well, that's when they just brought it, so no, it did not. It has more in it now, but it still has a long way to go. But I had to go get a U-Haul truck. We had nothing to haul. We had one piece of furniture. It's a really nice hutch / bookcase, and with glass shelves in it and stuff. I mean, it's nice, and it's a really nice piece of furniture, and we got it for a pretty good deal. In fact, we got it for a real good deal. And but I had to have something to haul it with. It was 6 feet, it's 5.5 feet tall or something. And I didn't have anything to put it in. I had to go rent a small U-Haul truck. It wouldn't fit in their vans, or I would have done that. But we got a small U-Haul truck. Phil came over, and he and the guy that was selling the stuff and Brenda, they had the load. I couldn't help them carry the load in. And so we got all that in there. And Kelly and Brad came over the following day, which was Thursday morning, and we got that off the truck so I could take the U-Haul back. I didn't want to have it sitting here in the driveway paying for it if I didn't need it. And what are you laughing about?
Your bride.
It's a hutch, not a hatch, for one thing. It's going to hold some really special books. I guarantee you that. I've already got them picked out. It's going to be a fine place, and it's got a lot in it, Mark, so I can exhibit if I want to exhibit my new collection of oh hell, Tim. Fenimore Cooper's, all of James Fenimore Cooper's books. I can put them up there and shine the light on them, and everybody that walks in there they'll be so damn jealous and envious. It won't even. They'll just, they might just turn around and leave. But that and my Ernest Thompson Seton books and a few other ones that I got here will have. What is it? The British.
You didn't buy that game animal series, did you?
No, but I wanted to real bad.
Yeah, but they wanted a flipping fortune for it.
Yeah, they wanted $400 something for it. Tim, too bad I'm not close. I have a pickup and would help you move. Well, I appreciate that, John. I really do. I wish you were too.
So how far is it door to door, do you reckon?
Let's see. Let me think. Well, I can tell you probably easier than I can calculate, but it
don't matter. I just wondered if it was 40 miles or 70 miles or 30 miles.
Well, I was thinking it was about. I was thinking it might be as much as 50. But I could be wrong about that. Now I can tell you that it is, oh, well, depending on which way you go, it's either 87 or 77 from here.
Really?
Northeast, yep. It was a little bit further than I thought. So it's about halfway between well, Bean Station doesn't mean anything to most people, but Kingsport is not
I
that
know
far
Bean
away.
Station.
Well, you do, I know, but I don't know if anybody else does. It's not that far from
Well, I mean, it
Greenville.
is the cultural center of the entire universe. So,
Well, yeah, it is, but everybody doesn't know that.
folks should know that.
Brenda, is Tim's birthday, the 28th of March. Yeah, it takes about an hour to get up there, but so the girls, we'll probably see even less of them than we do now. But who knows? When we live further away, they might miss us more. Maybe they'll come up more often. Brad, Kelly's significant husband, not significant other.
Significant husband.
He his mother lives up that way now. She lives in Bean Station. In fact, they moved down from Wisconsin a year or two ago and built a house or bought one or something. And he goes up there fairly regular, so we'll probably see him more often than any of them.
John, do you have a brother up there?
Oh, John does he's in Sneedville.
Oh, he's in Sneedville.
In Sneedville. Yeah, he's 30 minutes north of
Morristown.
Mike, you have the same What, Mike? We have the same birthday? Hey, I did not realize that. Even if you've told me before, just pretend like it's brand new so I don't feel bad. Yeah, Sneedville in the hills. Well, we're going to be kind of north of Rogersville in the hills. We're over the mountain from Sneedville, basically, and just a little ways. I don't know how many miles, but I believe you. I believe you, Mike. If you tell me it's true, I believe it. I just didn't realize that. So we're going to have to figure that out, buddy. We need to celebrate on that day. Note this means Tim. We have twice as much birthday. Oh, I like the way you think, Mike.
Hey, dog.
We'll have to celebrate that for sure.
Dog.
Who you got there?
Oh, a whole passel of bees.
Oh, okay.
I want you to see the size of this dog. I can't even hardly pick her up anymore.
Well, I hear the strain. Let's see if I can do. Oh, I can't. You let her down. I was going to see if I could present you. I don't know if I can do that or not. Oh, yeah, I can do it like this.
I bet she's 40 pounds now.
Look there, you're great big.
She feels like a 40-pound sack of feed.
And I'm sure she has eaten her fair share of the food. She's grown since I saw her.
Yeah, she's gotten bigger than I thought she was going to get.
Is she as tall as Hank?
I might have to cut her wages.
She not working?
No, she's just getting big. No, she's not as big as Hank, but she's a lot closer to him than I thought she was going to be, size-wise.
Brenda, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could, I suppose. Brenda wants to put me and Mike both in T-Rex outfits. I can't run around the yard drinking beer.
My grandson would come help you do that, and he's probably got several.
He probably does.
Did you need me?
Oh, I didn't know that, John. That's cool. Well, I mean, I guess that's cool if he was a good guy. Well, actually, I have lived in Kingsport. We lived in Kingsport when I was, I'm going to say 5 years old, just to round it off, but probably when I was 4 and 5. It's a confusing thing for me because my brother is 4 years younger than me. But while we lived in Kingsport, which was before I started school, My brother, as a toddler, was old enough to get up from his bed one morning on a cold morning, Sunday morning, I believe, and decided at that young age to help Daddy stoke the fire. We had a big old, we had a big old coal burning furnace that was right in the side one end of the kitchen. I mean, it was a big old thing. It looked like something out of a monster movie. And but he decided to help Dad stoke it, so he stoked it with my favorite blue jean jacket and maybe a pair of my boots. I can't remember about the boots, but I was
Not Tommy.
Tommy. Yes, he did. My brother Tommy stoked the fire. He decided to burn my blue jean jacket to help stoke the fire. I'll never forget. I was sitting at the kitchen table or standing there on, which was, facing the furnace, and I remember my dad sticking a poker in there or a pair of tongs or something, and he pulled my jacket out, and it was just a flame. I mean, it was just burning up. It was, and he just dropped it back in there. Boy, I was mad at him for a long time after that.
It was the scene right out of A Christmas Story then.
It was.
When you were Ralphie.
I was Ralphie, yes, indeed.
And Tommy was the little one.
Yeah. What's his name?
Randy.
Randy. He laid there like a slug. It was his only defense.
It was his only means of defense.
Hey, John, it's something might interest you a little bit.
Tina should be counting squirrels. I don't know if she's in here.
Who?
Tina.
No, I haven't seen Tina. She's in here. She's just ninja watching. They used to do when I lived in Kingsport. There used to be, and there may still be, a route that military called Kerosene Alley, or people called it that, and it was basically a run along the mountain range that bore into the country where we live, and I'm not sure why they were over Kingsport at that time, but they used to break the sound barrier a lot, and they'd come over and boom, boom, depending on how many planes. And of course, that scared the crap out of a lot of people every time they did it, because that was right in the middle of the Cold War, and hell, everybody was looking for their fallout shelters. But after a while, you kind of got used to it. But that's also when during that time period, when they passed the rules or the laws that said
no more sound barrier breaking.
Sound barrier breaking over public areas and that kind of stuff. So you get to miss that thrill. But they used to fly, tankers. They'd fly tankers up back and forth along the mountains and refuel, and just it was just practice runs. And that, I don't know if they do it that much anymore. I'll make a visit. Brenda Pruitt also have a good friend in Asheville. Wow, John, you got people all over the place down here. You can come down and see your brother. You can come down and see your what did you say, drill instructor? Not drill instructor, but some kind of instructor. And then you got a friend in North Carolina, and you'll have a friend in Rogersville. A couple friends in Rogersville.
Well, that's what he called him, a drill instructor.
Did he? Okay, I couldn't remember if he. Oh yeah, right there he is. Okay, that's what my dad did in the Army, John. He was.
I bet.
What's
I'm
that?
just envisioning a drill instructor, a DI from Kingsport, Tennessee, with that accent, yelling at John Rose with that accent.
I can think of several sayings and expressions that I bet he would have used. Okay, let's look at some slides here. I got a picture on front. How many people know what that is on the front of this slide?
Well, I ain't playing.
No, you couldn't play.
I know what it is.
You're a cheater.
I'm a cheater.
Well, I'll just tell you, that's a passenger pigeon. which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute, but it had a significant impact on my career, to be honest. That and another one I'll talk about.
Did you see that painting I posted with some Iroquois man or an Algonquian man, like in the forest, like looking up at just thousands and thousands of passenger pigeons flying? I think John Buxton painted it.
I don't know if I did or not.
I put it on the My Face. So
Well, I'll have to go back and look then.
it's a cool painting.
What's Maple Bacon talking about supper? He's got food on his mind. The Air Force, they call them TIs, just thought saying drilling. Oh, they can call them DIs. They call them TIs or DIs.
He said,
Anyway.
Yeah, drill instructors in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling. Hit the buttons there, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. If not, thank you anyway. Thank you, Mrs. Thank you, Mrs. Oh, my mind's not clicking.
And Mike said that the birds on the cover were supper.
Oh, well, you got too far off the point there.
And they, boy howdy, were they supper for a long
boy howdy. He says, anyone know? And I said, okay, yeah, you're actually pretty damn close.
There were millions of them, and then we killed them all.
Now, a couple of these critters, I was going to talk about critters that are now extinct in America, but North America, but some of these are not technically yet. They've been so close that they've been declared extinct a couple of times. But like this guy right here, the red wolf, native to southeastern United States, and he's sort of the size between a coyote and a gray wolf. And they thought he was gone, and then they found a couple or a few of them. They were down to just teens of numbers. I mean, very few. It's really hard to sustain a population of any animal when they're down to that low. They started a breeding program, and they started trying to bring them back. And the most successful place they put them is over on the Gulf or the Atlantic. Well, they were on the Gulf Coast along that part of the country, but they put them up in the Alligator National Wildlife Refuge, I believe is the first place. Anyway, it was over swampy places over on the East Coast. And
I think they still have some.
They do. But they've been fighting the battle, though. They got down again into the 20s, I think, or less. And they started, I think they brought in a couple of breeding pairs and started, releasing pups. And now they went 2 or 3 years where they had no pups in the wild. They couldn't find any pups in the wild. And so they started releasing and reintroducing again. And now the population's back up, but you can't sustain that. I mean, you can't keep doing that. Sooner or later, the money runs out and it's just a done deal. I never know with you two. What are you trying to say, Mike? That we might eat about anything?
Well,
anyway,
he's getting ready to eat a bison horn.
Yeah, he is. He's checking it out because they were here too at one time. So I just threw in a few pictures of the red wolf. The red wolf kind of is special too because I got to see this guy when they were releasing them in the Smoky Mountains, and they tried that in the early 90s or mid 90s, and it unfortunately failed. Partially because of distemper. They had a really bad time here with distemper. There's just too many domesticated dogs with distemper in this part of the country. And raccoons and other critters carried it, but they really had a hard time with that. They did have a couple of successful litters, but most of the litters, the pups died real young. They didn't make it. And that and the fact that they had to promise that because it was a Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and for some reason everybody thought that means it's totally sacred, you know, they had to basically allow any wolf that got outside the perimeter for any amount of time or reason could be shot. So, you know, they had a couple shot and some died of distemper. So they finally just pulled that program altogether. Unfortunately, I really hated that. I was excited about it when they brought them in. And this one at the top left reminds me of the one I saw. And so that was in 91, and 2 pairs were brought in. And they were last known in 1905. So they'd been gone a long time from the Smokies and this my part of the country. And then
Well,
they
didn't
were
they
also,
get the source population out of Texas?
swamps down in that part of the world, somewhere between Texas and Louisiana, and that was the place they found the last few that they could find that were, you know, pretty fairly pure, because the problem they had crossbreeding with coyotes. But we didn't have coyotes back in this country until what, the 80s, or
I think
maybe
that's when you and I started seeing them, when we were
yeah,
like hunting in like Middle Tennessee and places like
yeah.
that.
So
We'd see coyotes all the time.
when I was living down there, so that started in the early 80s. So yeah, that's when they started coming up this way, or coming back from this way. We're not quite sure on some of that, but that was a problem. But they think that one of the reasons why we didn't have coyotes back here could have been the red wolf at one time. They may have been the higher predator and kept the coyotes out, basically. And that would make sense if they were a larger dog and they, but they do know that they will interbreed now, especially when there's lots of coyotes, less wolves. So that was an issue. They needed to get a population to sustain that. They're going to have a population big enough that a few crossbreeds doesn't spoil the whole pie. And I don't know if we'll ever get there or not. The red zone up the top in that map is pretty much more or less their original range. And that's the tip of North. I think I don't know if that's South Carolina that sticks out like that. I don't care. Are you still in here? You might know. So they might have got up in
That's clear up in John's country, like up north of the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, it's real close.
Because the Great Lakes are right there.
Well, that's true. It's almost touched. Of course, that's maps land funny, but yeah, it does get pretty close. So probably up into Pennsylvania, lower part of Pennsylvania, and maybe along the coast in John's country. You're right. And then the Pines would have been that I can see that happening very certainly. And then we'll talk about another one of my favorite. I'm not an extinct animal fan, don't get me wrong, but this one I've always thought was a bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? Controversiality or something. I don't know. The golden bear of California, and it's on their flag, and they've got football teams called the Golden Bears, but there ain't a live California grizzly left because they shot them all and ran them off because of population. But honestly, they were gone before California exploded like it is today. And this was the last one that they had that they know of, and they had her in captivity, and she was known as Monarch. And this upper picture was one of the last cubs that she birthed, and they didn't survive. There was 2 of them. I don't think either one of them survived very long. They talk like they were born prematurely, but I don't know. I think they just probably were not able to. I mean, all bear cubs are born, this big, and they don't get out for 6 or 7 months while they're holed up somewhere, and then by the time they do, they're able to grow up. They're grown up a little bit, and the cute and cuddlies that we see on movies and TV. So I don't know, but they didn't make it. And then she died, and when she died, they have mounted a couple of examples of her. And this one at the top is Monarch. This bottom one may be a different pose for her, but I'm not sure about that bottom one. But this one is at the top. This could have been the last male. I don't know. They didn't give his name, but I always thought it was ironic that they basically shot them all. And but there was some other stuff going on with it too, and I'll get to that in a second. But it was you got to remember it's the Wild Wild West back then. So that's a close up of Monarch's face. And this gentleman, whose name I didn't put in here, but he supposed that they think this was the last California grizzly, and he shot it. And I just noticed he's got a big old peep sight on that tang of that rifle. Huh. And I believe that's a marlin. I know that doesn't matter. It's not got anything to do with the story, but I have to look and notice these things. Because it's got a square lever and looks like an octagonal barrel. And they did a lot of that back then, marlins in. Anyway, supposedly they think he shot the last one. That was in the wild. Let me back up. They had a few in captivity. Monarch was the last. And I thought I got another picture in a minute. Now, this is a little bit confusing, but not, I think I can explain it. This is known as the San Joaquin kit fox, and it's just located was in the San Joaquin Valley mostly, and then the edge of some of these mountain ranges, and then on down into Mexico. But then there's a Sonoran kit fox, and there's several subspecies. They're all kit foxes, but there was also one that was a coastal kit fox that was lived more over here, right on the ocean's edge, and I'll strip down through there, and they're all gone, unless some of that population was these guys. But at this point in time, they're not really sure. What was funny about that was not ha funny, but queer funny. Was I read about the coastal kit fox, and then I read about the San Joaquin because it's endangered, very endangered also, and is another one of those animals that they like to list as one of the rarest mammals left alive. There's 2 or 3 of those that I can think of. Great black-footed ferrets for one. These guys were down to very small numbers too, and they started the breeding program. So they're trying to bring these guys back. We'll see if they can manage. They live east of Los Angeles and all those busy areas, more into the mountains in the valley and on towards Nevada a little bit. So maybe they can get up in there and survive. I mean, if they can live long enough to adapt to humans. But I don't know if these guys can or not. They're not. Other foxes learn to, but who knows? Maybe there's not enough of these guys to do that. So I'd like to think they could. So while some of these guys are extinct and they think the coastal is gone, these guys are just barely hanging on in this area right here. Now, this is what I was talking about. Other went on. There was Mark can probably talk to this a bit. There was a thing that happened in the West, at least in certain parts of the West, that I don't know how often it was done, but the cowboys would try to lasso grizzly bears, and they did, and they would capture them and bring them in, and they actually did fight. They put them in an arena and they fought bears and bulls, and which is kind of that's basically man. At some point,
That came right out of Mexico.
Huh?
That kind of thinking came right out of Mexico and from Spain before that.
Right. And they did it over there too. And these are the last supposedly the last 3 Mexican grizzlies that were left alive. Got more company?
Probably.
So I was talking about they used to lasso bears and catch them. I don't know if that was just a California, Mexico thing or not.
Well, those vaqueros with rope bears, that was a big sport, but they did it. They also did that, the Buckaroo Cowboys in Idaho and Nevada and all the way up into Montana. Charlie Russell's got lots of paintings of rope.
Yeah, he does. That's right.
And so
I had one on my computer just the other day.
they were, yeah. Of course, those bears are still with us.
These are gone.
They're gone, and there's no way, none of that stuff can live in that state anymore.
No.
There's not enough of that state left. You know, if you look at that southern coast, like where you were talking about that coastal kit fox, the only piece of country still down there is Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, well, that's true. Good point.
Everything else is town. I mean, like big town, like gross, completely gone. There's no habitat, none.
Which is a good point. The same thing is that the same case in a lot of places. Tennessee there's some migrating birds. I can't remember what they were now. One of my professors was doing survey work and they were trying to determine population numbers, and they were going to up to Clarksville to where the 101st is. Can't remember the name of that fort. Anyway, they were going up there because that was the best habitat left in this state for that particular bird. And they'd been pretty common at one time in Tennessee, and they were pretty much gone. And that was, again, a military base where everything had been restricted for years, and it wasn't developed in the same kind of way that, you know, everything urban was around it. And it's amazing. No, not Fort Benning. That's in Georgia. This is Fort Campbell.
Oh, in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, right in the edge of Tennessee and Kentucky.
Right.
There's a gate on the Tennessee side too. Most of it's in Kentucky, but they use that again, like just like you're saying at Pendleton, that was habitat that was left because of the way they managed the property and hadn't developed it. Now, this is one I didn't know much about, and Mark might, and I was surprised because I didn't realize that this is that statue there, which is kind of strange looking, but that's Booming Ben. And Booming Ben, they think, was the last heath hen left alive on the East Coast. This was an East Coast prairie chicken, if you will. That sort of bird. And I guess
Pinnated grouse.
Huh?
A pinnated grouse.
Is that what they're called too?
Yeah, with those long
spikes or feathers. Yeah, they can. I guess they would stand those up when they were doing mate. I've got another picture here in a minute. But they lived all along this red coastal area, even up into Canada on the East Coast. And I assume these were bigger than a normal grouse, probably not as big as prairie chickens out there. But they think Ben was the last one because they had a strange phenomena as they were trying to save this species, if you will. The population kept going down and down and down, and what happened was they ended up with almost all males and no females. They had a count when they were almost gone, and they had like 6 males left and 2 females, and which was, you know, kind of bass backwards. It's usually the other way around. So I thought that was an odd. I didn't read all the history on it, so I don't know if they gave a reason for that, but that just seems like an odd turn of events because, you know, if you talk deer, there's a bunch of does to every buck that's out there usually, and one buck, you know, can breed a bunch of does, so you get more of a population expansion. If you're down to 2 hens and 6 males, you're going to slow that process down a lot. And not much variety in the gene pool at that point either.
So
But
they still have. They were super abundant through Kentucky and Ohio and Indiana and Illinois and all, to the Mississippi River.
were they?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the East prairie grouse when we had prairie, which became woods, and woods don't support critters
No,
like this.
true. A lot of people don't realize that. And you drive across Tennessee.
Although they were market hunting the heck out of them.
Oh, yeah. And that's another thing. In the East Coast, the big cities were all here first, and they market hunted the crap out of these birds like this. And another one we'll talk about in a minute. And they just couldn't sustain the numbers. I mean, we're talking huge numbers. And
that was all pre-regulated.
All pre-regulation. There was no control over any of that stuff. And of course, some people thought they'd last forever, kind of thing. And then
like with passenger pigeons, the numbers were so unbelievable.
Yeah,
they would literally roost in patches of forest, and there were so many birds they broke trees down. They would knock the tops out of trees. There were so many birds, and nobody thought for a second that was ever going to happen.
Right.
But I mean, it was the big key. Well, they were market hunting them, unregulated market hunting and selling them, and they converted the habitat completely, and that's the big death knell.
If you go back in history and read up on the early Spanish explorers, a couple of them actually got up into Tennessee. I don't know if they got higher than that or not, but there were other visitors that came down from Canada that were trading and traveling in the old Midwest and down into Tennessee. And the natives had created such a vast mosaic. I mean, they burned off territory to keep it burned down to prairies, and that a lot of the country now that's wooded was prairies back then. And people don't. It's hard to imagine that when you drive through a state that looks like it's almost tree to tree from end to end, and it really wasn't. And then you have to look at the size of the trees and realize most of them aren't that old. But when it was like that, a prairie chicken, eastern heath hen could move all. I mean, I could see it being across this whole part of the country, and that, like Mark said, that habitat changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it went from most people don't realize how heavily managed that landscape was by the native people.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, right. They don't understand that. That photo in the bottom is an actual. It is an actual. Whoops! It is an actual photograph. And it's why it's so grainy and blurry looking, but that is, one on a lek.
Yeah, and it's like a prairie chicken, greater prairie chicken.
I mean, look at it up here. I mean, to me, well, of course, that's a John J. That's an Audubon drawing at the top on this one. I don't know who did this pen and the pencil one up here at the top, but I thought that was really neat. A good drawing, so I put it in there. But here you can kind of see the difference between the male and the female, which is pretty typical with birds that you've got similar. And the plus the males had these air sacs like you see down here on this bottom bird that they can use to make their calls with, which is a sound you can hear from a long way off if you're ever out in the woods. And then you also, well, not these guys, but like rough grouse, they drum with their wings, and they'll sit on a hollow log or a log, and they'll start flapping their wings and drumming on that log literally, and you can hear it for miles. And then we'll talk a little bit about one of my favorite birds was the ivory-billed woodpecker, and this is obviously one that they've got in a museum that they probably collected at some point in time, but this is all we've got to go by these days. And this is faded. The color's not real good, but the beak on this animal is a little bit different than the pileated. It was a little bit wider, but another part of this, it was that their wings had a lot more white on them than pileators do, which is what we have left now.
But it's still a woodpecker that's that tall, big as a crow.
Oh yeah, they're big, and then people ate them. That's another thing. I mean, they were wood hens. People shot and hunted these guys, these big woodpeckers, and ate them.
There they are.
These are two examples that they've obviously been either cleaned up or drawn, but I think both of these are stuffed animals, or preserved bodies. I can't, whatever you want to call them, but you can see all the white that's on this. When this bird flies, if you can see the back of their wings when they fly away, they have a lot more white on their whole bottom of their wings is white, or the back edges of their wings are white, which is kind of important here. And I'll talk about it in just a second. No, we'll stay on. This bird was thought to be extinct. There was a man who lived right here in Knoxville named, I think his first name was Jim Tanner, Dr. Tanner, and his wife in the 1930s spent a great deal of time, maybe even now, probably not, maybe the early 50s even, spent a great deal of time searching for these birds and trying to document anything they could about the ivory-billed woodpecker. And he became the preeminent, or actually they became. She knew a lot about it too, and she just passed away recently. He's been gone for a few years, but he wrote a couple of books, and they mapped them. And the last one that at that time that they knew existed, they thought was in Cuba. That was their last sighting, was actually in the Midlands of Cuba. And before it got, I don't know what it looks like today, but it wasn't developed as much then. Everything was around the coastline. And that was back when Cuba was, wide open. People from America went down there for vacations, to gamble, all kinds of stuff, live the high life, especially during Prohibition. And they documented these birds down there. Well, then they disappeared, and they may still be disappeared. But a few years ago, I think it's around 2005. Actually, it was before that. But in 2005, they announced that they thought they had found some ivory-billed woodpeckers once again in the deep forest of Arkansas. Because these guys lived in like flooded swamplands with cypress trees and tupelo trees and things that would grow in wet ground. And then when they went in, one of the things that killed them off was they went in and cut down all that bottomland hardwood forest. And we didn't have any ivory-billed woodpeckers anymore, but some of that's grown back. So they thought they'd found some, and they had some photographs taken that looked like they could have been authentic. But then, but I think they made a huge mistake, personally, by announcing it. They had waited a couple of years after they thought they'd found them, and then they had announced it. And of course, once you announce that, in the birding world, that's like suddenly becomes, the weenie that everybody's got to go find and collect.
The big year. It becomes the big year. If you've ever seen that movie.
Everybody that's a birder, or not everybody, but a lot of people that are birders will go halfway around the world to see a really rare bird if one is spotted, and they can generally find it to take pictures. And they just swarmed to this place, and that's what happened here. They started getting so much bird watching traffic that it really screwed things up. So which is why they didn't announce it earlier. I think they should have kept it quiet until they were sure, because after that, I don't know if they saw anymore. And
haven't they documented them in Louisiana now, northern Louisiana?
Well, I think they have, but I think they're being more quiet about it too. I think they learned the lesson. So I suspect it's still going on, and maybe, just maybe, this guy's not gone.
There aren't very many of them, though.
But if they are out there, yeah, there's not very many of them, which is why they should guard them like the Golden Fleece or something. Because if they could come back, it would be a miracle. I'd love to see one. I had a professor at UT that we were talking, had a I guess he was applying for a job at UT, a professor that was wanting to get into the College of Natural Resources there or whatever. And he came in and did a whole slide presentation and what do they call it? Well, he did a presentation to all of the students there that wanted to come in and see it. And they do that when they interview people because they like to see how they act and interact with students and whatnot. And he did a whole thing on endangered species. We took a break in the middle, part way through his thing. We took a break, and I walked up, and this professor that I barely knew, but I mean, he had a reputation. He was a funny guy, and he was a forestry guy, and he was out of Louisiana and that part of Arkansas. He pulled me over to the side, and he said, I don't know. He said, I've been thinking about this a lot. He said, every time I think about it, he said, when I was a kid, I think we might have ate the last ivory-billed woodpecker in Louisiana. He said, we used to run the woods and we'd hunt and fish and carry on. He said, we'd shoot an ivory-billed woodpecker to eat. He said, so I might have ate the last one that was down there. Well, it was funny. It wasn't funny, but it was to hear him tell it to me just off. He just pulled me out of the crowd. Started telling me that story, and I thought, and I wouldn't, part of me said I wouldn't doubt that, not one bit. It wouldn't have been a malicious thing, mind you, but it doesn't mean he wouldn't have done it. Okay, now the passenger pigeon, and this is one of the other beards and breeds that got me started and got my interest up. When I was I've probably told this already, but when I was in the 5th grade, I had a teacher that decided that I should be in public speaking and I should compete in the 4-H public speaking program, and which meant I had to go to competitions in different schools. And I just, at that point in time in my life, I just wasn't my favorite thing to go do. But my mom thought that was great that they wanted me to do it, and they pushed me to do it. And in some ways, it was a good thing. While I was scared to death and didn't get comfortable ever doing it, it probably helped me a little bit learn to talk in front of people somewhat. And my first speech, the first thing I talked about was endangered species, the passenger pigeon being one of them. Whooping cranes, passenger pigeons, and not ivory bills at that time. I didn't know, but there was like 3 species that. And might have been talking about raccoons because they were pretty scarce back then too in our country. But anyway, passenger pigeon.
Red cockaded woodpecker, I'll bet.
It could have been. I don't remember that part, but I do remember the pigeons, and I do remember the whooping cranes. But the pigeons, I think, were probably one of the wildest stories. That the whole history of the passenger pigeon was some tale, because these things were said to just literally darken the sky when they would migrate, and they migrated like halfway across the country, twice a year in search of food. And they primarily ate, I may have a picture, while they were often killed because they were eating crop, most of it was market hunting, because these guys were good to eat, and restaurants in New York and Boston and big cities on the East Coast like to put them on their menu. So they were market hunted to sell to those places. So a lot of, I guess you could say, poor country folk that didn't have much of a way to make money, made money doing stuff like this. And the extremes they went to catch passenger pigeons just floored me. And then, in a sense, suddenly they were gone. I mean, it was just people were I don't think people realized that they could even happen until they did. And I wrote this down. This was in 1831. John James Audubon, who traveled all over South, drawing pictures of birds and such, just talked about the passenger pigeon. He said, I dismounted, seated myself on an eminence, which I didn't ever use that word like that, and began to mark with my pencil, making a dot for every flock that passed. The passenger pigeons were overhead. In a short time, finding the task which I had undertaken impractical, as the birds poured in countless numbers and multitudes. Squirrel. I rose and counting the dots, then put down, found that 163 flocks, not birds, flocks, had been made by them in 21 minutes, and they were still coming and coming, just wave after wave after wave. He said he traveled on and still met more the further he proceeded. The air was literally filled with pigeons. The light of noonday was obscured like an eclipse. The dung, the bird crap fell in spots, not unlike melting snowflakes or flakes of snow. And the continued buzz of wings had a tendency to lull your senses to repose. He cannot describe to you the extreme beauty of their aerial evolutions when a hawk chanced to come in and jump into the flock. I mean, you can only imagine how the bird eating hawks and raptors would have felt. They would love this. A hawk would pass in the rear of the flock and then would pick out a target, and then he would rush into the center of these guys, and he said they would rush into a compact mass, just pressing against each other. That was their defense towards the center of the ball, and almost like solid masses. And he said they would darted and undulated in angular lines and descended and swept over the earth with inconceivable velocity, mounted perpendicularly so as to resemble a vast column, and when high were seen wheeling and twisting within their continued lines, which then resembled the coils of a gigantic serpent. Before sunset, I reached Louisville, distant from Hardinsburg 55 miles. The pigeons were still passing in undiminished numbers and continued to do so for 3 days in succession. That's a lot of damn birds. And by a guy who, well, he may or may not have been, may not have expounded upon his wording and what's the right word? Added more,
And we killed them all.
And we killed them all. And this is partly how we did it. I think this one on the left is an actual photo, even though it's not very good. But you got to remember, cameras still weren't very good when this was done. This was around 1900, I believe. But look at these contraptions they made to capture them. And they put up big nets in areas where they would come in to land to eat or whatever, and they would catch them and look at them. In this picture, that is a bundle of pigeons. That whole example of a net there, big ball of a net, which looks like a fishing net or something, coming out of the ocean full of sardines or some other kind of fish they catch in large numbers. And that is full of passenger pigeons. And they would take them out of that. In this case, some of these anyway, they would take out and they would put into boxes and turn them loose in houses which had roofs in them, which you can see on the floor. Some of them were dying. And then they would turn them loose to have pigeon shoots. That for just sport. But most of them went to market. They went into market and were just slaughtered for eating. And it's just amazing to me. It still amazes me to this day. And this was the last living passenger pigeon
At the Cincinnati Zoo.
Yeah, and they think she was about 21 or 20 years old. And there was something by the Senate of Ohio that they had decided proposed to protect the passenger pigeon. So in 1857, there was already concern about their diminishing numbers, and they started trying to do something about it. And the Cincinnati Zoo had the last one, and that was her. There's the folly of 1857 and the lesson of 1912. I kind of like to find this book and read it, or at least read some of it. I don't know what this came out of.
I'm gonna break in here.
You gotta go?
Going.
All right. Well, have fun. Sounds like you're gonna have a big crowd to entertain.
Yep, there'll be a fair few.
When you get time,
Have a good evening, good weekend, everybody.
You too. Give me a call in a few days. We'll talk some more about. I sent you a kind of a rough layout on some story ideas, but I don't know if you saw it or not. Email.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Take care, buddy.
All right. Later.
See you later. So anyway, this was the passenger pigeon. This is just some general biological notes. This is the kind of nest they would lay or build, and 1 or 2 eggs, which is another reason once you started killing them off that they didn't reproduce as fast, because I don't think they laid many eggs. This is a chick, probably one of the last ones born in captivity. This bird, these birds, they didn't. I don't know if these are, that bird up there, Alice or whatever her name was. Did it say? She had a name. At least they called her by one. No, I don't see it in there. Seems like it was Alice or something similar to that. I'm sure if you looked it up, you could find it. So here we are, and these are some animals that we have found or pulled back from the brink. One was that we've talked about before, the black-footed ferret in Wyoming. They thought they were gone, and then one day a farmer's dog brought one in, and he didn't know what it was, so he called the game and fish guy that lived in that state, Wyoming, and they thought it was something, or recognized it as different, and they checked. It turned out to be black-footed ferrets. It was the last known colony that they've ever found, so that was it, and they were in danger. I mean, they were down to just 20 or 30 animals, and parvo and other domestic dog problems like distemper were also affecting these guys. But now they're up to about 300 animals in the wild, and they seem to be doing okay now. But we've stopped poisoning all the. They're very specific. They only eat prairie dogs. That's their natural prey. I don't even know if they eat anything else. And so we quit poisoning prairie dogs, and we're trying to bring these guys back. Same thing with the California condor in my lifetime, and that might have been the other bird I wrote about, actually. They were down to just, it says 22 birds in the 80s, and I actually thought it got lower than that in the 70s, but that might be about right. But again, that's not much of a population. Now there's about 275 free-flying ones. And believe it or not, they still have a problem with people shooting them from time to time. That just, I don't know. That's just something man does for some reason. And then the Sierra Nevada red fox is actually in California. It's in the Sierra Nevada mountains. They thought it was gone, and then they got a picture of one day on a trail cam or something. I might have that. Now, similar to this one, but it wasn't as good a picture. And they started looking, and they finally realized that this red fox existed. And this is a native red fox. The red foxes we have most of this country now are they brought over from Europe or England, so that the early lords and gentlemen could run them on their horses like they did over there. And and they took off and got wild and populated. They're everywhere now. But this guy was actually a native North American red fox, specific to that mountain range, in fact. Whooping crane, which was on my list, and like I said, and these guys were down to 21 and 41, and they weren't much better than that in 1970. Let's see, I would have been probably 68 or 69 when I did this. And and the Eagles, that was the big bird that I talked about, because the Eagles were down to almost nothing too, although they never got as low as these guys, because there were eagles in Canada or Alaska that weren't as affected by DDT and things. But now they think there's about 800 birds as of 2020. Every once in a while, one comes through here. The TWRA planted some wetland areas specifically to, well, sandhill cranes have made a comeback. They were low in numbers, and they still are hunted in a couple of states. And again, they're supposed to be good to eat, but I mean they're regulated now, so they're protected. So TWRA put in these big man-made fields. They planted fields just for the whooping cranes, because the sandhill cranes had started stopping here, and they were having a lot of problems with them being into crops. They were eating corn and other things, and winter wheat and stuff like that farmers were planting for their own benefit, obviously. And so the state planted fields to get them out of the farmers' crops and help they can manage them better. And that flock is built up into the tens of thousands. I'm not sure how big it is now. And most of them pass on through. They stop here and refuel, eat their fill, and then move on further south or further north. Teddy's dreaming, I think. And but every once in a while you'll see a whooping crane with them, because to try to get the whoopers that they were releasing into the wild to know about migration, they turned them loose with whooping cranes, so that hoping that they would learn to do that. And some did and some didn't. And that's what led to, well, it didn't lead to this, but this stamp came out in the 70s, 57, year of my birth, which I thought was interesting. It came out then, and it was trying to support conservation, and they've got whooping cranes on the front. So that kind of, because they were having issues with them following the sandhills, that led to these flights with hang gliders, or not hang gliders, but power gliders, paragliders, or whatever they call them now. And they got these birds to follow them. And there was a movie or two made about that you may have seen. Condor would eat prey that may have been shot. Yes, that's true, Chris. That was part of the problem now. One of the problems with the condor is that the condor was sort of a leftover species, if you will, maybe from the last ice age, where they had large carcasses to feed on, like mastodons and I don't know, just all kinds of other big animals that lived in that part of the world. And they're not, while they are birds of prey or considered raptors, they're they eat the scraps. They're just like our vultures, but they're just much bigger. And so in some ways that's a problem. They don't have the big supply of dead meat that they did at one time when there were dead bison all over the prairie. I mean, even naturally they die, and those guys would come in and clean them up. And these are, I don't know, Mike, what you're asking, but these are big birds. I mean, a whooping crane or a sandhill would stand, probably look me right in the eye, I suspect, flat-footed, because they're pretty tall. If they didn't, they'd be real close to it. And these are their flight paths now. And this one that passes through here is the one I'm talking about, this group. And there's a couple of areas right here in northern Florida where they used to winter. I think Iverness is one of the towns. It looks like now they might have spread out just a little bit. But they're at least there's more of them now than there were when I wrote the story. And that's the end, which is probably good, because I'm about out of voice. Let's see. John had to leave. Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get to say bye. We have around here rough grouse. They serve up the feathers up high and dance. Yeah, they do. They're fun to watch. All those grouse species and similar birds do either create a lek, which is like a clear spot on the ground, or grouse, which tend to do it in the woods, but they'll clear out a little spot around a drumming log that makes a lot that they find that they like, and then they'll set up there. What do you have planned for the rest of the day? I have planned, I'll tell you what I've got planned. I'm going to watch the 12-hour Sebring race, which is happening right now, and I'm going to lay on the couch for a little bit, and I may even put ice on my back, because yesterday I strained myself a little bit, which, mind you, doesn't take a lot these days. Good timing, time to stop. You're right. Oh, so my wife hears me. You know what I'm going to probably be doing. I need you to come down and help me fix my bed, if you will. Goodness, I know coffee drives me out, but at least if I keep it on there, it stays wet for a little bit. All right, guys. Went through that kind of fast. I wish I'd seen more of the comments I could have answered. If I didn't answer your question, feel free to send me a note or ask me anything. And if I can explain it or tell you what I meant, or if you've got information I don't have, I'd be glad to listen. Okay, on that note, we'll talk soon. Everyone have a great bye. See you, Mike, Diana, bye. And guys, I'm going to say bye for everybody, if you don't mind. And I'll see you again probably one more time before we move to the new place. And then I'm not sure. So I'll probably be out there 2 or 3 weeks. But hopefully I'll be back by mid-April, if not before. And be back up to speed. And, we'll be broadcasting from the new studio on a ridge somewhere near Rogersville, Tennessee. So have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend. What's left of it. Hopefully the sun will shine, and we'll keep everybody up to speed on what's going on, what, when, and where kind of stuff. And see y'all again real soon. Thanks for coming, everybody. Love you. Well, okay, Mike, we'll do that. I gave you my phone number, so you can always send me a text if you want to get online. I can't find the button. There it is. Bye-bye, guys.